Between 1819 and 2020, the United States economy has suffered through 9 major financial panics, 2 centuries of booms, busts, and total systemic collapse. We all carry the cultural memory of the Great Depression. The market evaporated, jobs disappeared, and average citizens were financially decimated in a matter of days. Jump forward 70 years later to the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis, and the economic fallout felt identical. During times of extreme financial distress, the public reaction is always the same: intense anger, followed by people pleading for government intervention to stop the bleeding. And in the aftermath of every single crash, a default consensus emerges. We decide the disaster was caused by deregulated, greedy Wall Street executives operating with too much freedom. Blaming a profiteering corporate boogeyman is psychologically satisfying. It gives us a villain. But zeroing in on human greed completely blinds us to the actual structural mechanics of why these panics happen in the first place. The Wild West narrative has a glaring flaw. The financial sector is not a lawless frontier. In reality, banking is the most heavily supervised industry in America, monitored by a massive web of federal and state overseers. So you have to ask, if there are so many federal watchdogs monitoring every move, how do catastrophic market failures keep happening? Thomas Vartanian spent his career on the inside as a federal regulator, and what he discovered about financial collapses directly contradicts the standard story. By writing specific rules, safety nets, and tax loopholes, the government builds the very incentive structures that trigger systemic collapse. We are caught in a cycle where the regulatory cure feeds the economic disease. And as technology accelerates, ignoring this cycle sets the stage for a disaster we won't be able to contain. To understand how well-intentioned rules backfire, think about a municipal speed trap. Look at this diagram. A city installs speed cameras to force drivers to reduce speed, but drivers react, using radar detectors to map the cameras, gaming the enforcement zones. Drivers compensate by accelerating aggressively through unmonitored areas, causing more severe collisions. The police obviously didn't set out to cause accidents, but their specific enforcement policy unwittingly gave drivers a mathematical incentive to drive erratically. Financial executives operate exactly like those drivers. Rather than acting as cartoon villains, they are highly rational players reacting to the rulebook they are handed. When Congress implements a new banking restriction or a tax loophole, executives immediately scan the new landscape to calculate the most profitable, optimal path forward. The ultimate proof of this behavioral loop is the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s. At the time, regulators were absolutely stunned to find that nearly every S&L in the country had made the exact same catastrophic lending errors simultaneously. It wasn't a coordinated criminal conspiracy. You simply had thousands of intelligent managers independently following the exact same flawed government incentives straight over a cliff. Today, this dynamic is worse because modern oversight relies on a critical flaw. The government regulates what a company calls itself rather than what it actually does. This chart highlights the problem. If you pile heavy restrictions exclusively onto traditional banks, the risk doesn't disappear. It just migrates away from the watchers, settling into unregulated shadow entities. You see this constantly in the current fintech boom. A startup app can process millions in digital transfers daily without ever facing prudential banking supervision. Now, massive technology conglomerates are attempting to mint their own currencies, bypassing traditional finance completely. Stacking compliance rules onto traditional banks while leaving tech giants alone doesn't make the system safer. It just builds a massive blind spot where the next crisis will inevitably begin. Now, consider how technology accelerates this loop. Algorithmic trading and blockchain networks function with zero latency, processing millions of data points every second. If human executives take years to identify a government loophole, artificial intelligence can detect and maximize that same flaw in milliseconds. This merger of flawed policy and lightning-fast machines creates a feedback loop where systemic risks propagate faster than any human oversight can react. To break a 200-year cycle of crashes, the approach to oversight has to shift to uniform activity regulation. If a tech startup issues credit, it gets regulated exactly like a commercial bank issuing credit. The functional loophole vanishes. Regulators must also upgrade their own tools. They need big data to monitor systemic risk and market stress in real time, rather than auditing the wreckage long after the crash. We have endured 9 major financial panics, We have to stop treating these crises purely as unpredictable failures of human morality. The economy operates like a complex operating system. If we want to stop the crashes, we have to start rewriting the flawed government code that incentivizes the bugs.